our special noodle class today again. Like we are doing a high hydration noodle and then like dough products today. And my name is Akira. I'm going to be a host for this class, and this is Megumi, and she's making uh, high hydration ramen noodles on our udon machine. And we're gonna show you guys different types of high hydration noodle like dough products today. And it's kind of like hard for me to like put this class and but like anyway like we are basically like trying to like max out our udon machine, like get the biggest bang out of it. And so for the deal, like let's start it. And so let me spend a few minutes just explaining like what we do at Yamato, and before we start the class. So basically, like, in this business of like noodles, we are manufacturing noodle making machines. We provide noodle schools or ramen, udon, and soba. And we've been doing that for like 45 years for the school. Like the past 20 years, like we've been teaching people, who want to open up noodle restaurants, noodle businesses. And we are all over the place. So we have customers using our machines in 61 countries and more. We have 8 offices in Japan. We have office in South Korea. We have another office in Singapore, Netherlands, United States. We have partners in different countries. And so we are basically like a team of noodle making experts who help our customers who want to open up like noodle restaurants, noodle businesses. And so we provide, noodle equipment, training, and everything, whatever they need to start out successful noodle restaurants, businesses. Okay, that's about us, and so let's get on with it. So we're gonna talk about high hydration noodle and then dough products. And I'm just gonna like get started like by talking about like why high hydration noodles or like product dough products are great. And I'm gonna talk about like how we can make great high hydration noodle or dough products. And I'm gonna talk about ingredients and production methods. And so we developed like something we call Yamato production methods, and I'm going to talk about like how we can apply it on the high hydration noodles and dough products. And basically, like when I just show you guys a little bit about like how we can maximize the benefits of our udon noodle machine. And later we're gonna move to our kitchen, and our instructor is gonna show you guys just a few samples, like few sample applications of high hydration noodle products. Okay, and then we're gonna finish it off with the Q&A session. So for those of you like if you have any questions, please send them in the comments. Right, so high hydration noodles, and this is a chart like I've been using like in the previous classes, and then so so for those of you like who want to know how this chart works like in more details, like please check our previous classes on our YouTube channel. And so basically this chart like talks about or describes like different types of noodles in terms of like noodle texture. Um, and noodle texture is like made up of protein content flour that's used to make these noodles, and moisture content, like how much water is added to the flour to make dough, and noodle size, thicker, thinner. And what we're talking about, like, so we are talking about the right bottom section of this chart, high hydration noodles. So it's gonna be like high in hydration, like, so we're talking about like over 40%, maybe like up to like maybe like even like 60% is very high in hydration, like liquid that's added. So basically, we're talking about like um, soft texture noodles like products. So over 40% hydration. That's a lot of moisture. That's a lot of like liquid contained in noodles, noodle products, and of course, like we are talking about like such noodle as like udon, soba, and ramen that has like that's high in hydration, and pasta, and certain types of Chinese noodles, and of course, like we have like some other dough products like pizza and other things, and high hydration ratio. Like, so what's good about like high hydration noodles, like high hydration like dough products is that like, so if you have like 30% hydration dough, which is like kind of on a lower scale, so you have like liquid of like 23% and the solids of 77%, which translates into like 130 grams um, of a serving size. Out of it, we got like 30 grams of liquid and 100 grams of solid, right? But like if you have 50% hydration dough, then in 130 grams serving size noodles, you have, like just 87 grams solid. Like, so that's 13 grams less solid ingredients. And, like think about like, which one would be like, flour or like, solid ingredients or liquid ingredients, which one would be like, like less costly, right? So like the more water we have, right, more water we have in our noodles, the less costly it is. So um, basically cost-wise, like it's a lot less. Like we are talking about like if you are producing a lot of noodles, then we are talking about a lot of money here. And basically, like the more liquid, the softer the texture, more solid ingredients, the harder noodle texture. So, and then, so what are the best noodles? It's a blunt question, but like, in terms of quality, in terms of like the noodle texture, how good the noodle textures are. So, like, we have a conclusion, right? So, any type of noodle that like cook in a shorter time, the shorter cooking time, the better, and the more delicious the noodles are. The better texture, better flavor. And so the key to making noodles that are cooked in shorter time is making great foundation, which is dough. And so what we're talking about, like noodle, the time it takes to cook the noodles, like it's actually depends on the thickness of the noodles, thickness of the noodles. So what we're talking about, like for example, like if you have noodles like that with a thickness that's at like 3 millimeter in thickness, and then you have another one, another type that another noodles, another type of noodles that's like the same thickness, but like this noodle A like cooks in like 5 minutes, and then this noodle B cooks in like 8 minutes. Then like we're talking like noodle A is better noodle because it cooks in a short time. And I'm gonna explain the reason for that like later. So but basically like dough is having like dough like great dough is like very important like in making noodles that like cook in shorter time. And so what makes great dough, right? So like we need to like think about three things: ingredients, methods, and recipes. So ingredients, we talked about it before, like in the previous class, and different flours, like of course, like wheat flour is the most important ingredient. We have to think about, and like we have like different types of wheat flour, hard flour. Similar how like it's um, the amount of protein that's contained in the flour is different. Like higher the protein, the harder. And so what are like in a medium all-purpose flour, like so this type of flour is used to make like udon noodles, bao noodles, and then this type of like product, it falls under high hydration noodles and dough products. And we went through these slides before, and then so kind of like digging deeper into like what the wheat flour, what kind of wheat flour we should have, and they're like this is the wheat flour, right? The protein, starch, moisture, And for the details, like kind of, well, please check our previous class for more details of these slides. I explained what this slide means the previous class. So, but basically, protein, starch, moisture, and then what changes is like from wheat flour to wheat flour is that like protein and the starch, amount of protein and the starch. Higher the protein, the harder the noodle texture, and but starch right inside the starch, like we have to dig deeper to protein and starch, and like basically protein, when it's cooked, right? When it's cooked, like texture like loses the glutinous texture and it gets drier. But like starch, right? Starch like when it's cooked, right? When it's heated, becomes like glutinous, and because it gelatinized, and kind of looking deeper into the starch, right? So the structure of starch, um, so there's a glucose in it, and then there are two things, right? And how it's linked, the glucose is linked, kind of makes up like these two types of ami amino acids, like amylose and amylopectin. And then the more amylopectin we have, like the more the chewier and viscous the flour is. So we need to have, well, it's usually like this is the ratio of like amylose and amylopectin, 20% to like 80%. But like um, being in the flour, you come across, there's more amylopectin contained. So we should, try to find like flour locally that contains more, more like yeah, amylopectin. So, and to sort of like measure the viscosity of the flour, wheat flour that you come across, like we have this device, measuring device that evaluates this viscosity value of your flour. So we use this measuring device, and we have it at our headquarters, and it measures your flour to determine like what kind of viscosity it has. And yeah, so if you have like flour, that you wanna test it, you can send it to us, and then like we can test it for you, like, and then that's free of charge. So feel free to do that. And we have like some other device that have like um, evaluates the noodle texture. We call this like rheometer, and then it just like applies this pressure to the noodle strand and see like how it bounces back, how much like resistance like it has. And so that's another device. So like we can sort of like evaluate, all these like flowers like that are sent from like different parts of the world, see if these flowers are good for the types of noodles that our customers wants to make. So if you have any like you want to test it, like please send it to us. So ingredients like wheat flour is very important. Like and playing the role of like kind of determining the noodle texture, and um, the wheat flour, and then the of course like water. Water is another factor that like plays a role like in making the noodles cooking time shorter, and especially water, right? Water. We're talking about like soft water, especially like when it comes to like cooking noodles. And we want to use soft water because if we cook noodles like in hard water, right? There are a lot of like minerals already contained in the hard water, like magnesium, like calcium. So all these like salt made like there may be like some salt contained in it, like in the noodles, and then these salt like needs to be dissolved in the cooking water, and then in exchange it absorbs the water, cooking water, and then that's how the noodle gets cooked. But with this these like magnesium, like calcium, like there's less room for these ingredients to be released to. So it takes time. It takes longer to cook for the noodle to be cooked, and so we use soft water, which has little of these um, minerals. So so like the and thicker the noodles, the longer the cooking time, and and then the harder the noodle, harder soft water, the longer the cooking time. So like it's um, in some cases like we are talking about like 10 minutes longer or something like cooking time. Like if we cook the exactly the same noodle in hard water and soft water, like difference maybe like 10 minutes or something. And if you cook the noodles like for that long time, then the surface melts, right? Which is bad for the noodle texture. And then we lose a lot of noodles like because the noodles melts to the cooking water. We lose it in the cooking. Um, so there's nothing good about it, like use of hard water. So if you have to like work with hard water, then you should use some like um, this device like shown in the picture, called water softener. And another thing like I want to point out like in when talking about like water is that like like so hydration, it's the main topic of this class. So hydration, so like how much water we are adding, how much liquid we are adding to the flour, the solid ingredients, mixing to make dough, right? And so today we are talking about some, I mean, high hydration. So like we are talking about the picture on the right. It's a udon dough. Like we are talking about like over like 45%. So this way, what I want to say here is that like so the higher the hydration, like softer the noodle texture, and we have to mix it. We have to mix the dough. I mean the solid ingredients and liquid ingredients to make dough, right? And so higher the hydration, the shorter the mixing time. Okay. Then another ingredients. Well, this one is for udon though, like because udon is like one of the um, most famous, I mean popular high hydration noodles, and then it's well where we headquartered, like Kagawa, it's home of Sanuki udon, so I need to talk about it. Like so, salt. So it's like make dough more elastic by tightening gluten in flour and reduce the activity of like pill enzyme contained in flour, and also inhibits the growth of like unwanted bacteria, improves the flavor of the noodles, and adds salty taste. Well, we add a lot of salt in udon noodles though, so it's a lot of salt. But like most of the salt is released in cooking water, so we don't taste as much of it as when we actually eat noodles. And prevents cracks in noodles when they dry. So these are the roles that like salt plays when making udon dough. And another thing I want to say about this is that like so when like we make noodles, right, like especially like udon or like some other types of noodle like ramen or anything like so like ambient temperature. So in the summer, like it's hot. Maybe like the room like where you make noodles, like it's like brought up to like maybe like 25 degrees Celsius or some, and then in cold winter, like maybe like it goes down to like maybe 10 degrees Celsius or something. And so there's a difference like in temperature, right? So when that happens, then we need to adjust the hydration ratio because like when it's cold, like the water activity like it's kind of inhibited. So we need to increase the amount of water, and when it's hot, like the water accept like kind of more viciously. So like we need to decrease the amount of water. And salt salinity level, because like salt is used to sort of like keep the activity like enzyme down. So in cold water, like cold winter, like when the activity of enzyme is like kind of high, right? So not no, I'm sorry, like the opposite, right? Low, like then, so we need to like keep the salinity level like down. And then when it's hot, like in the summer, like activities like high, so like we need to increase the amount of salt. And this is well, if you don't use such equipment as like the aging machine that controls the temperature, the dough. Um, so in that case, like you should control salinity level of the dough as well. And sometimes like vinegar is used for udon noodles and things like so. What it does is like optimize the resting process. Resting process, like I'm going to talk about in a minute, keeps dough from spoiling and controls pH level in cooking water. So cooking water, if like I talked about it before, but like the pH level is very important. Like so we did a test, right? Cooking noodles in water, cooking water like that's neutral, and we lost a lot of noodles. Kind of a lot of noodles melted in a neutral water. But like when we cooked in light alkaline water, like pH level like 9 to 10, the demand was like a lot less. And when it's light acid, um, when we cooked in light acid, like so the was a lot less. So the yield was way better. So the control pH level of cooking water is also important. And so we talked about like all these different types of like udon noodles, like in different textures, and like discuss the value, discuss like is important before, like in the previous class when we did the udon for immunity. That's I think it was like 28. So different udon noodles, different texture. So viscosity is like elasticity of noodles, and a protein content like hardness the noodles. And there are many types of udon noodles, like across like regional udon noodles, and like with the different texture, like sizes, like and then yeah. So it's there are just many of them. And construction noodle recipes, like I talked about this like in the previous class when we did that a mochi pasta. And so there are five factors you should consider like when constructing noodle recipes. So wheat protein of the flour, wheat flour that you use, and viscosity of the flour, which we can measure for you, and hydration, of course. Like, and then in this class we're talking about hydration of 45%, 55, noodle size, thickness, times like width. So smaller the noodle size, the less bite, and whether you're gonna serve it as serve like cold or hot or warm dish. And yeah, so this is a method, right? So we need to develop a gluten structure inside dough to make it's that texture, and then that kind of noodle texture that like cooks fast, cooks in a short period of time. And in order for us to do that, like we need to develop the gluten kind of web-like kind of network, kind of like structure that's as shown in the image. Um, and so this is the process, right? Like so we have to weigh ingredients and the right ratio, and then we do the mixing and the resting process and pressing process and second resting process. Like each of these processes are like essential, like in building um, good gluten structure that would result in the kind of dough that cooks fast. So gluten development, that's like mixing. Mixing is very important. So like what we are trying to do is like we are trying to like kind of distribute all these like water molecules like into each of the flour particles like equally. So like each flour particle has like an equal amount of like water molecules. So that's what we are aiming at. And for that to happen, like the mixing speed is very important, like 60 rotations per minute. And what we're trying to make it happen like a high agitation, granulation phenomenon. Like so each flour grain like gradually come together to form crumble the dough, right? As it's mixed with the liquid. So that's what we want in mixing process. And after that, like we do like the resting process. So like resting, so we have this like kind of sort of like optimal resting line. So like the temperature is important. Like temperature, like at certain temperature, like we rest a dough like for a certain period of time, like 2 hours, 20 degrees Celsius, like 2 hours, 18 degrees Celsius, like in 24 hours. And so what it does, like we get like full benefits like resin process, like so it promotes hydration. So like it takes time like to like hydrate the dough like from in the mixing process. So it helps promote hydration. So the hydrating the like each particle like with the equal amount of water molecule and degassing. So when we mix it, like we get a lot of like air pockets in the dough, and by resting it, like we are removing all these air pockets out of the dough, like which would burst like when we cook the noodles, and that would like ruin the gluten structure we have developed in the dough. And the resting process like kind of helps activate the so like enzyme like wheat, and so that would, like so like promotes the kind of wheat good wheat flavor. And it also like relax like internal stress with dough. So like after mixing, after pressing process, like dough gets a lot of stress, and if we go right ahead into like another process, like that's gonna pressure the dough again, then that would damage the gluten structure of dough. So we want to relax it before we go move on to the next process. So that's a resting process. And after that, like we do the pressuring or like press process, pressing. And what we're doing is that we are kind of like applying the pressure, the dough, to like make the gluten structure, like kind of render the gluten structure inside dough. And this used to be done like by, well, actual foot stepping on the dough, but we now do it like in a press machine. Okay, so like after that, like we just all we have to do is just like thin it and cut it, like portion it, like cooking it, washing, chilling. But like when we thin the dough, right? Um, so in the previous class, like we used the like ramen machine, and the ramen machine has like big rollers, and these rollers like really, I mean, this is like 210 millimeters in diameter. These rollers are great at sheeting like low to medium hydration dough, because they apply like really strong pressure to the dough. But like udon machine, because this like high hydration dough is like kind of softer, right? A lot softer than the low to medium hydration dough. So these rolls like great at sheeting um, dough that's in a high hydration, softer, so like 90 millimeter in diameter. And and then another thing that's different from like ramen noodle machine is that like it uses this kind of cutter. So it uses like knife, kind of like knife, this kind of blade, and it cuts it, right? And it cuts like, so the thickness is determined by the roller gap, like how it's sheeted through the roller, but like the width, right, is determined by the cutter, the timing of the cutter that cuts the dough. And you see this like cross-section shape, like width and thickness. And this is also like very, very important, like when it comes to like the noodle texture. And because like the noodles are cooked, when the noodles are cooked, right, that how the noodle expands in the cooking would be different, like depending on like how the cross section of the noodles are going to be. So we usually we found out that like because the water kind of penetrates noodles like from the side, like when the cut surface from the cut surface. So we need to make the noodles like in the cross-sectional ratio of like noodles, like thickness times width to 1.1 1 to like 1.3 to 1 to 1.6, like this within this ratio, so that when the noodles are cooked, the noodles become sort of like kind of square shaped. And if we make the cross section like in the reverse order, then the noodles are like not going to be kind of not cooked well. So the noodles like the shape of the noodles become like kind of like round, and then some of the parts are not, some of the area of the noodles are not cooked. So you know not then like it takes a long time to cook it. So um, the noodle texture wise it's not really good. And yeah, so this is how the noodles get soggy. So like, when it's fresh, or when it's cooked, and then the water like kind of like gradually like penetrates into the core, and then when the area of like the fresh noodle like raw area like it was gone, they get soggy. So that, and then so there are many applications of like kind of like dough uh, products and like noodles, like we can do like on this udon machine, and there's like kind of similar equipment that can do high hydration noodles, like high hydration dough products. So it's, well, we're planning to do like different classes like on like different applications probably in the future. But so let's start making the noodles on the udon machine. So what Megumi is making today is high hydration ramen noodles, and this is a udon machine. We call it SHINUCHI, and it's, well, it's actually available like yeah, anywhere in the world, and like we even have like CE mark on it, so it's available for Europe as well. And it's got like fairly big mixer. This is like 12.5 kilograms mixer. Like you can mix up to like 12.5 kilograms of dough. I mean the flour at the time. And the reason that's like 12.5 is that like the bag of like commercial flour in Japan is 25 kilograms, and so it's the maximum capacity of this mixer is like exactly half that. And so first of all, like we like to just mix it with the flour, solid, and the solid ingredients, like, so we had the ramen flour with kind of whole wheat flour, mixed it, and she's mixing like salt and currency in the water, and then hydration ratio. This one is 48%, and so that's actually pretty high hydration ratio, like for ramen noodles. But something, that's not really possible. Like if you try to do it like in the ramen machine, this dough that's this high in hydration. So to and so she added like the liquid, right? And then the liquid is dripping through the holes to the flour, bit by bit, to like to promote the good hydration of dough. and it's just gonna be 5 minutes, but like we don't want to waste 5 minutes. So she prepared the dough in advance. It's the same, same type of dough, same recipe, and what she's gonna do is that she's gonna do a press process, and so this is a press machine, and so this kind of like this machine mimics the kind of food pressing, food stepping on the kind of hand making of handmade noodles, handmade noodle methods. And so what it does, like this is kind of flat press machine, and like it just kind of presses the dough at the top, and then comes back down, and it's gonna repeat that like a few times until the dough is like it's well there's like well pressed. And in the process, like the gluten structure inside dough is like very tight, very well developed. It's actually a lot of pressure that this press machine is applying to the dough now, and then you can see that she's like so flat, right? And then it's a lot of pressure that like this dough just sustain, right? And then well it goes for another round pressing, and then um, like how she like look at how she like was folding it. By folding it like inwards, she's trying to like kind of press like the entire area of the dough kind of equally, evenly. So every area of the dough is pressed like with that like equal amount of pressure, so that uh, so like the entire areas of dough is well developed in gluten structure. So it's and this is the third time I'm pressing. It's getting really good. So for those of like who attended the previous class, like watching how the dough condition is, like well we process like on a ramen machine. Um, it's it's impossible, right, for it's impossible for this press machine to process that kind of drier dough. Like because of the high hydration, these machines can do the press. I mean, well, make that dough into kind of small solid dough. So, so after 4 minutes, right, she added like rest of the water and mix it for 1 more minute. So we want to divide it into like smaller pieces for her to be able like kind of handle it like easier. Because if it's too big, right, then we she can't like she wouldn't be able like sheet it out like uh, one time like one time. So like she because the dough is gonna be like really large in area, so it's gonna be pretty hard for her to like kind of well sheet it to the final thickness on this kind of limited space. So it's more efficient for her to divide it into small pieces to sheet like each piece like at a time. So what she's doing now is she's putting the dough back to aging machine. Remember, like this is second resting process. The second resting process. So like we usually do like 18 degrees Celsius for overnight. So what she's doing now is that she is getting the dough like she prepared like last night and start sheeting it. So compared to our ramen machine, like this udon machine is like more of like more of the like machine that like actually mimics the kind of hand making methods of noodle production and so there's more like kind of manual operations that are involved and nothing like I want to point out the difference like I want to point out like from how the ramen machine operates is that like so ramen machine has the rollers right and then like when you sheet it on that machine you sheet the dough on the machine like you can go only one direction like the dough is like just sheeted like in one direction but like in this machine like you can actually sheet like in multiple directions like like any kind of directions you want so that's a major difference and then because the dough is like sheeted like in different directions multiple directions um, it gets to like strengthened like um, in different directions so when you pull it when you try to tear it in different directions it's stronger than the dough that's processed in the ramen machine which is just sheeted in the one direction. And you maybe have like noticed that like there's like number in the display like that's kind of changing like as she sheets the dough, right? And that's a sensor like that's actually thickness the dough that's being rolled, and so there's a sensor that's checking the thickness of the dough, and see now it's 5.8 millimeter like but like just double like folded like double layered of like sheet right that's so that one sheet of dough should be 2.9 millimeter like it's more like almost like a 3 millimeter so the thickness is 3 millimeter. Let's go for another round sheeting. That's 5.2 so like that's 2.6 each. Another one. So she's gonna cut, and that's where like you set the width, cutting width, and so that's a cutter, and the width of the noodles is actually controlled by the speed of the conveyor belt. So the faster the conveyor belt, the wider the noodle will be. So you can control the conveyor speed. You know how fast the like this dough sheet is going into the cutter. Okay, so that's cut noodles, and then another just a bit of like a trick that like she wants to show is that like so like when it comes like ramen noodles, like udon noodles, like kind of thick, softer noodles, we can make them curly, right? And we can use that actually this press machine to make them curly like automatically. Like it's kind of because it's maybe like a lot of work, like time consuming, like to make them curly by your hand, like by like kind of squeezing them like well enough to make them curly enough. So it's sometimes like kind of cool to use this like press machine to like you know make them curly like so that saves you a lot of time. So it's just like some small trick that we sometimes use. And by the way, this is a type of noodle like we can use for the tsukemen, and of course like we can use like for soup noodles as well. And it's like texture wise, like this is very good. And remember, like we don't use like as much the solid ingredients as like low well, like medium hydration ratio noodles. So you use like less of the ingredients, but like you get more. All right, so that's the it's a high hydration ramen noodles, and yeah, she made like some other things, some other stuff like before, and then so she made like some with like eggs in them, and another type like that's without eggs, like for vegan customers. And she actually made some pizza dough before, and like you will be able to like check it in a minute. All right, so that's our udon machine, and we're gonna plan to like use that udon machine like more, and like show you guys like how much more like much more like bigger potential like this udon machine like they have for you for business. All right, so let's move to the kitchen, and then, like I think our instructor is waiting. Okay, so this is our kitchen, and when we have school, this is where we teach like kind of culinary sessions, and like we make soups and everything like from scratch. And ramen school, like especially like we make like all kinds of different types like components, from scratch, tare, soups, toppings, and everything like from scratch. And each student has a chance to kind of play around with like each of these components to reach their final recipes. And so like it's even though like that's like 6 days, right? Like 7 days, the short period of time, like no, it's very intense. And you can work with like some of the people like who actually have run their own ramen shops like professionally like over 10 years. And so they you can if you even if you don't like have any experience, right, you can get to work with them, and you maybe like um, have a glimpse like into like what they are making, or like probably they are maybe like willing to share some like of their recipes with you, so that would be great. So and then what we are preparing, right, is e-learning courses, online courses that like we're hoping to replace some of the courses that we teach in real courses. So for those of you like who are interested in it, please let us know. We'll keep you guys updated. All right. I'd like to introduce our chief instructor, Mr. Ikeda. Like he's going to show us some of the high hydration noodles and dough products today. Thank you, Mr. Ikeda. Hi. Okay, so today like we are doing tsukemen dish, and like using high hydration noodles and pizza dough. Okay. Yes. Because like it takes time, a bit of time, like to cook the tsukemen noodles. So like we will start tsukemen first. That's 6 minutes. Okay, let's go over the ingredients, toppings. Chashu like pork shoulder. It's a leek. Mema. And a half boiled egg. Soft boiled egg. Mitsuba. It's a kind of herb. Sudachi, like the kind of like citrus with the like kind of bitter taste to it, like kind of Japanese citrus. These are the toppings. Then talk about the soup. So this is a tonkotsu like pork bone broth, and I added like a bit of like fish stock to it. Then the tare sauce, and soy sauce tare, like shoyu tare, and let's flavor oil. The flavor oil like that has like kind of animal type and like a plant type involved, both. And for tsukimi, like that's kind of typical, but like it's fish powder, like kind of fine fish powder. Yeah, we're gonna sprinkle it like bit of like the fish powder, the sauce. Okay, so like into the bowl, this is gonna be like dipping sauce, so it's gonna be yeah, and then we're gonna add the tare, the soy sauce based tare, and then flavored oil, and I'm gonna add like a bit of like leeks as well, and I'm gonna add the warmed um, broth to it to finish it. Yeah, so it's just gonna take a bit of time like to cook the skimming noodles. So let's move to the pizza. So this is so this is a pizza dough like I made in a machine like in the mixer, and then the press it like the press machine. And this hydration ratio is like actually like 57%, so close to like 60%. And yeah, like so I proved them. So I've let them sit for a while. After like adding like yeast, so they're going through like resting process like sufficiently, and then um, so I flatten it, and I'm just gonna add like tomato sauce. And so I'm gonna do like mozzarella cheese and and I'm gonna put it in the oven like set that 300 degrees Celsius. Just gonna put some basil too. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the oven, bake it. Okay, so get the noodles out, and I'm gonna wash them. It's important to wash them because there's some starch like coming off the noodles. Like the stuff is gonna be like kind of slimy. It's not good texture. So I wanna get rid of the starch like as much as possible, like in washing. I know you can tell like if the starch is gone or not, like by looking at the water. If it's like clean, then it's gone. Yeah. So you should wash them like as much as you can to get rid of the starch. Then I'm gonna plate it. Yeah. So like what's important is like when like plating this kind of noodle is that like we should like come through the noodles, like here like combing the hair, so you kind of make it straight. And I'm gonna place it like in the kind of like in the back, in that rear area, because like I'm gonna have like some space in the front for toppings. Yeah, I'm gonna warm up the soup and finish off the broth. So I'm just gonna add this stock right to the tare. Then lastly, like I'm gonna add this fish powder. This is partly because like we want to make it viscous a little bit. Okay, so that's done. And I think pizza is ready as well. So like um, so having it's like these are both high hydration ratio noodles and dough product. So, well, we could have like much more variety, like using high hydration dough. So it's yeah, it's like that's limitless. Like what you can do with noodle machine, like high hydration noodles, dough, and that's just like you're probably like, limitless the imagination. So yeah, and then we will continue to cover this topic like in the future and like kind of making like different applications of high hydration noodles and high hydration dough in the future. So if you are interested in this high hydration dough products like noodles, please check back with us. All right, so thank you so much, guys, and hope to see you guys in the next class. And so until then, like stay healthy, stay safe, and then yeah. So thank you so much. Bye bye.